Hello, thank you for joining me for another one of my videos. My name is Cliff and I'm here, one of these guys on the internet, stating that the Lord is shortly to return. This series of videos that I'm calling 99 Problems But My God Ain't One, I'm going to run down from 99 to number 1 as the series ends. We're at 93. The last one was called Human Emotions, and this one sort of relates to our human emotions. I want you to understand, when I said human emotions, I want you to look at each emotion as a little box. And when I say this one is called their real agenda, their real agenda, their real plan. And when I say their, I'm talking about the elite of the world. The people that have all or control all the money in the world. The elite. I'm not talking about the very rich millionaires. I'm talking very rich billionaires of the world. They run this world under a guideline, a plan system that they have going on at this moment. And this plan that they have running is orchestrated through the United Nations. Behind this plan is an agenda, what they call Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is the manifesto of the whole world. How our food is to be operated, how the governing bodies are to operate, courts, life, economy, education, religion, and even weather. The weather. You may not understand what I just meant about the weather. There's something hidden behind that term. Weather control. This is a term that nobody, I'm sure, has heard of. Whether it's controlled by the elite already. But they don't want to tell you that, just like they don't want to tell you all the other stuff that they actually control. You and I, as the working class, the little people that make their lives free and abundant, are their working slaves, basically. You say you're not a slave, but really you don't know that you are, but you are. I don't want you to turn this off by calling you a slave. I'm a slave too, just like you, but we are what we are. The manipulation of money, the system of money is a fake system, and I'm going to explain some of that a little bit later in my other videos. So you'll have to hold on and understand what I just said. Of all these little facets of our lives that I just mentioned are little boxes, okay? And some of these boxes attach to other boxes. And all these boxes here that I just mentioned about the agenda attaches to every one of our human emotions. How we feel about love, how we feel about hate, who we hate, what we hate, how we feel about food, what we love for food, what we normally eat, what we don't eat in one country as opposed to the next country, the lifestyles of another country. Everything is a little box, and some boxes do not connect to other boxes. So when I say this agenda, a whole agenda 21, is a program for each body, each country, each state, each race, and certain ones do not connect to another. But when on a whole scale, all these systems or programs are to frustrate you and I. Let's get back to weather control. Listen to this lady speak here.
How many of you know what chemtrails are? Nobody. The military and some commercial planes are spraying us with what are called chemtrails. I want you to look at the, and oftentimes before there's a weather front, there are heavy assaults from these planes just before a weather front is changed and comes in. In the 20th century, clouds were seeded by numerous countries around the globe with various chemicals to produce rain. China was just doing this over the summer in Beijing to make sure that there weren't any rain, that there wasn't any rain during the Olympics. But all this has changed dramatically with the U.S. military's secretive research and plans to control the planet's natural weather. This has not been given very much press, and we have to remember that we have a corporate-owned press where 85% of radio, television, and print media is owned by 5 corporations. So they're not going to talk about things that are of really serious consequence, and that's somewhat of the blessing, a mixed blessing of the Internet, but there's certainly plenty of information on weather modification. The Air Force is on record as saying, quote, they want to control the weather by 2025, and we are not talking about just seeding the clouds for rain.
See? I bet you didn't know that. Now, I bet you next time you're going to go outside, look up and look at the clouds or look at the planes going by, and you're going to see these streaks, and some planes are doing streaks and some planes have no streaks, and you're going to say to yourself, what is that? Why is that streak there? Is that supposed to be there? It's always been there. You've been duped. The streaks are not supposed to be there. Back in the 60s, 70s, maybe the streaks were there as Con Air streaks, but that model of plane has been gone many decades ago. That when you see those streaks, it's their toxic chemicals that they're putting into the air. Anyway, so let's get past the weather control. Let's talk about food. We got another company that controls already 90% of the food that that you and I eat, like GMOs, orchestrated food. This company's called Monsanto's. Watch this clip.
Genetic engineering is a process where scientists take genes from one species and force it into the DNA of other species.
Every single independent study conducted on the impact of genetically modified food shows that it damages organs, it causes infertility, it causes immune system failure, it causes holes in the GI tract, it causes multiple organ system failure.
The whole concept of genetically modified organisms is throwing a monkey wrench in the life on this planet.
What if we could produce more yield on the same amount of land, squeeze more water from a single raindrop, conserve natural resources while caring for the environment?
Monsanto's the company that told us that PCBs were safe. They told us that Agent Orange was safe. They told us that DDT was safe, and now they're in charge of telling us if their own genetically modified foods are safe.
The reason why we have 170 million acres of genetically engineered corn and soybeans and cotton and canola oil and sugar beets in the United States is because it doesn't have to be labeled.
The first genetically modified animal, a salmon, may soon be approved for human consumption.
Both these fish are 18 months old, but the larger genetically engineered Aqua Advantage salmon grows twice as fast as the regular salmon.
There has not been sufficient animal health testing, human health testing, or environmental impact testing of these new transgenic fish.
Basically, They've taken agriculture and built an industrial model which doesn't fit nature. So instead of changing their agricultural model to accommodate what is natural, they're changing nature to accommodate the industrial model. If you have an organic corn crop that sits next to a genetically engineered corn field, and it happens to tassel at the same time, and it happens to be downwind, you're going to get your crop contaminated.
The rest of the food supply is contaminated. Then the genie is out of the bottle, and it's maybe physically impossible to turn the situation around.
In the genetic engineering revolution, these seeds are now patented property of one corporation called Monsanto.
The pharmaceutical industry has no interest in having you well because they don't make any money if you're well. And the pharmaceutical industry is the biotech industry.
Some people think that GMO really means God move over.
We are heading downhill at a rapid rate of speed toward our own extinction.
The use of GM in agriculture is a risk that is simply not worth taking.
Okay, you must be going to say to yourself, why is this important? Who cares about whether they own all the food that we eat and what they're putting in the food, whether it's toxic or not, and how the food is growing so long as my food is on my plate? Okay, forget about that. I want you to watch this clip. This clip is related to our religion, so to speak. Our religion and world population. According to these people, the elite, they want to have our population reduced. And you don't, I'm sure you're not going to understand, or how does that happen? Well, it's happening. The wars in the Middle East are already started. They got the disruption going on in the U.S. about bringing up racial tensions. One way or another, they got planned from A to Z on reducing the population. If one plan doesn't work, they're going to reverse it and go into the next plan. They are coming in for you and I. Just like Hitler took out one country and moved on to the next, it's happening right in front of your eyes. And they're using us, the workers, to do their dirty deeds. Watch.
It was back in 1979 when a stranger came to Elberton, Georgia. Now, Elberton, Georgia is on the eastern part of Georgia, very close to the South Carolina border. And this stranger said that he was part of a secret group, and they wanted to build a great granite monument. Nobody knows who put the money up other than this fictional individual. Nobody knows what secret group he represents. Of course, Elberton mines granite. They make tombstones there, and they had the facilities to mine the granite. But he gave very, very specific directions as to how this was to be built, so that it would always be aligned in certain ways, so you'd always be able to see the North Star, so it would be aligned with the moon and with the various phases of the sun. And very, very similar to the Stonehenge that they have in England. So the Stonehenge was a Druidic monument. This was to be the American Stonehenge, or it's known as the Georgia Guidestones. And on each one of the Guidestones is this message in a different language, actually 8 different languages. Are the 10 commandments that come from the dark side. And the first one is maintain the world population at 500 million in constant balance with nature, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize that we've got over 6 billion people in the world. And if we're going to maintain the world population at 500 million in constant balance with nature, we're going to have to kill off about 90% or more of the world's population.
I went there and looked at those things and said, now, hold on a minute. Today's population is 6 billion. They want to maintain humanity under 1/2 billion. Looks like a lot of people got to die for their plan to work.